a tech startup ecosystem meet. Let us start a panel discussion on technologies of future, growth hacks for tech startups. Let me start by welcoming a moderator for the session, Mr. Rahul Agarwala, Managing Partner, Sense AI. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Now welcoming our panelists for the session, Mr. Anand Sinha, Head of Operations, Sahara Netcorp Limited. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Subrat Kar, Founder, Vidul. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Mr. Ramaprakash Ramamurthy, Director, AI Research, Zoho Corporation. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Mr. Ramakrishna V, Co-Founder and CEO, Zorium Technologies Private Limited. Welcome, sir. I welcome all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here today. Before I request Mr. Agarwala to kindly take the discussion forward, I'm going to request all the attendees to kindly put their questions in the chat box, and the panel will address a selected few at the end of the session. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. And thank you, IMAI, for organizing such an interesting topic. I think all tech startups are looking to grow fast. So growth hacks, talking about tech, all of those are very interesting. Let me do a quick background about me and my thoughts, and then I'll pass it on to the panel. So I run a fund called Sense AI Ventures. We invest in early stage artificial intelligence startups. And when I say artificial intelligence, it's not just that you're using artificial intelligence, which a lot of companies now do, but you're AI first. Without AI, your solution won't work. So those are the startups we fund. So I work with a lot of young startups. I've seen them grow, and I'll share some of their stories. I will hand it over to, and for today's topic, basically, we'll try and address growth hacks and tech hacks in three basic domains, right? One is on the technology stack. How do you get quickly started? Open source, XYZ. Second piece would be product. MVP, product market fit. Let's get some thoughts around that. And finally, we'll talk about, of course, markets, because that's really where the growth comes from, where your customers are. So how to get to your customers, how to deal with that. Yeah. So let me start with Rama. Since he is in the AI world, I, of course, have deep affinity. So let me pass it on to Rama.
Thank you, Rahul, and thank you, IMA, for putting this together. So, like I said, I'm Ram Prakash, and I've been driving the AI and blockchain research for Zoho. Research as in not very ivory towerish research. I mean, we started doing AI somewhere in 2011. Back then, when it was not called AI, it was called by different names: probabilistic programming, intelligent big data, and things like that. We started off with sentiment analysis back then, and slowly we have a strong AI forte in our product these days. So I can probably share my experience on the right things we did, the wrong things we did in shipping AI to customers, get their feedback, and of course monetizing AI and blockchain. So that is my input that I can give it to you for today.
Thanks, Ram Prakash. Anand, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Rahul. I represent Sahara Netcorp Limited. I'm actually heading operations. Sahara Net is actually a technology arm of Sahara India Group, and we manage across technologies, whether it's development, infrastructure management, BPO, everything, across 6,000 locations of Sahara. Now, our learning has been immense, and I've been part of the team for the last 20 years, one of the founder members here. And I've been early associated with SR Swisscom, which is now Vodafone. It was initially, I was actually part of Haryana, the sales and marketing team, heading sales and marketing there. So I have a feel of Haryana. I was based out of Rohtak, right? And I was also, I've been also doing some kind of research on PhD research on digital communication. And my journey through, my professional journey has been on communication side. Way back in 1996, when email was being sold as boxes, TCPI account for 15,000 rupees for 500 hours. I have that kind of experience also in Delhi, right? In Delhi NCR. So having said that, it's a lot of learning over the years, 25 years, and we carry that learning and would like to share that as an ecosystem, what is required, what consumer wants, what are the challenges that they face, and some data points which possibly will benefit the viewers and the participants here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anand. It's great to have your level of experience and understanding. And telecom is the backbone of a lot of services a lot of companies do. In the end, we all need to access the internet, and that's all telecom. So great to have you on the panel. I'm sure you'll share some invaluable insights to all the entrepreneurs. Ramki, you want to go next? You're on mute.
Yeah, first I would like to share my experience with the company. We have built applications pertaining to supply chain management and educational certificates. So what are the things I'll share my experience pertaining to growth hacking. So how to attract the right target audience. So what we did is that since we had developed a product pertaining to educational universities, we had given our application platform, the decentralized app which we have developed. The app name is Asli Stamp, so that one can upload their certificates and a blockchain based is generated. This we have offered free service initially to test my app. So this we have and we had quite a number of customers on that, and we have tested our network. So point I want to project is that initially once you bootstrap your company, you need to go to the market with a different kind of strategies. Like to give some examples, some successful growth hacks. I think you all must be aware of Dropbox. In year 2013-14, they have come up with a referral account. You refer, you get certain X amount of storage space. Even subscriber gets and the referrer gets. Like that, they attracted many subscribers, and the company is valued at 10 billion. So that is one unique growth hack which one of they get. Even if you take Instagram also, for example, because social media platforms, it is crowded once Instagram came. They come up with that box photograph, which I don't know, nobody have liked that. But then also it is a what you called platform hack, what they have performed. If you post on that, it can be showed visible to other social media platforms. So this hack techniques, one should be innovative in hack techniques. That innovativeness comes in your own product portfolio. Why I'm taking these examples? These I've taken examples of international. Even I'll take an example of small Indian startups. There is one spiritual tourism company. They are specialized into spiritual. And whatever you offer, you should be specialized in some or the other thing. That should be your core USP. That everyone will agree with me. So this spiritual tourism startup, what they did to have their targeted audience, they have done a campaign. They identify few mailer list and they started sending prasad of a specific temple, like Tirupati temple. They started sending, and they have made some 500 niche market. And these are the people. Later on, they offered the product of spiritual packages and all. It has clicked very good. Like that, there are so many examples. Even in pharma sector, back way early, there's one product launched, Dex Orange. So before launching that product, Dex Orange, they sent oranges to doctors in order for have a strong brand values. So here, what point I'm driving is that whatever the product, the startup are in, you have to identify some niche and a strategy, growth hacking strategy, which would fit into that particular product. So like this, we have been successful with our product. And same thing, even Google Pay, Paytm, they have also adopted this thing, but with a huge acquisition cost. I'm not talking about with a huge acquisition cost, means giving freebies, 100 rupees per sign up and all. That and all, if we get good funding, that automatically could do. Even that is possible without huge funding. That is the point which I want to drive here for the startups. So this is the one which I thought of sharing my real-time experience with you guys.
I think that's a great point about that. The growth hacks needn't always be about giving freebies, which cost a lot of money, but there are smarter ways to think about your niche and how that relates to your product and offer some value from that. Lovely. Thank you so much. Subrat, would you like to go next?
Yeah, hi. I run a company called Viduli, which is an online video analytics company based out of Noida. So we as a company, what we do is we track and analyze videos which are consumed all across platform like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and also some of the OTTs. The idea when we started was basically to become an online video authority, because we knew that we figured out that video is growing, and of course in next 3-4 years down the line, a lot of platforms, a lot of content will be there. So there has to be a third-party analytics and insights company that can cater to the advertisers, media companies, so that they can create better content, and advertisers also can reach out to the right audience. So with this thought, we started this company, and it's been around 5 years of the journey. And yeah, and also I mean, I will share some of the insights and learning that I learned since my 5 years of entrepreneur journey. And interesting, the topic is growth hacking for the startup. And the growth hacking as a topic is very close to my heart, because I started my career as a product manager back in 2012 with Jabang. And then I also worked in India Mart around 6-7 months. I love to share some of those insights that I learned in my previous organization, also my current startup. See, I mean, the growth hack is nothing. Basically, it's an experiment, right? The term has become a jargon word among the startups and investors. And also, interestingly, that topic the keyword has become trend on LinkedIn, especially, right? If you visit profile of any marketer or any product manager, most of them, and 90% of them has put growth hacker, in the LinkedIn title, right? According to me, it's nothing. It's just an experiment. That experiment which worked for me, not necessarily, will work for you. Excuse me. दोगे ये दो जल्दी दो. Excuse me.
You're muted, Rahul.
I'm saying while we wait for Subrat, Ram, why don't you go
I'm really sorry. My battery was going down. I'm sorry for the interruption.
No.
Yeah. I was talking about growth hack. So I mean, according to me, growth hack is like an experiment, right? You do an experiment. That experiment works for a particular set of audience, right? And for a particular set of market and product. Like Ramki mentioned about Instagram or WhatsApp, the growth of WhatsApp. You talk about growth of WhatsApp, how they scale like billion of users, right? So it depends from startup to startup, product to product, from set of sample audience to different set of sample audience. Like for us, as Viduli is a B2B company. The growth hack for us is like how we can attract more number of content creators and video influencers to our platform, so that we can track their data, and how we do that through the content. And a lot of these B2B companies, like you name most of the startups in the SaaS space, largely they acquire the customer through the content marketing and through different other marketing channels. For them, this is their growth hack. I mean, how I can do the growth hack, or how I can do a tweak in my product that can actually give me some 3x or 4x of the growth. And that tweak is an experiment, right? And continuously you have to do that experiment. Continuously you have to hack that part, right? And also you have to continuously do that measurement, because you do an experiment and you just forget, you don't know what's happening there, right? You have to do it continuously. You have to measure it, and then you have to scale it to some X number of users. And yeah, that's part of the life of every product manager or entrepreneur. I'm sure there will be a lot of startups doing experiment and measuring those experiment and then implementing and taking into the scale. And that's called the hack, according to me. And happy to answer some of the questions if you have in the sessions. And thank you so much, also IMI, bringing me, and pleasure to be here. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So that was a good insight on how everything is very particular to the product and the startup that you are doing and the market you are in, right? But let's hear some stories. Ram Prakash I'm sure you'll have some stories on actually taking a product to market and scaling it. And AI, given that it's the new exciting hot thing these days, would love to understand your experience of both building the products as well as taking them to market, and what has been the learning there.
Thank you, Rahul. That's a great question. So I think I have some 3-4 points to cover. So basically, when I started off in 2011, we had very little data back then, and probably we started off with sentiment analysis, and the data outside was available only from IMDb movie review datasets, Amazon's customer review dataset, and we were trying to apply it to a service desk product. Right, so basically borrow data from B2C and then slap it on B2B. Your B2C commercial reviews are like very colloquial. They use a lot of cuss words. The tone itself is very different. Whereas in your B2B, it's like, dear so and so, your product sucks. Thanks and regards, so and so, and then one big paragraph that says, do not print this environment. Do not print this email unless you need it, and all the disclaimers and things like that. So initially, that was a very big learning curve. And especially when you are a startup and when you have limited resources. For example, when we started off, we wanted to see would things like AI and ML really help a business like Zoho. That was the main point in exploration. And I was a one-member team for the first 6 months, and the next 6 months I hired the second person. We didn't get carried away by the changes that happened in the market, especially AI in 2013, 2014, 2015. Every night you wake up when a lot of things happen in the night in the US time zone. Every morning you wake up, there's a totally new thing. There's always this fear of missing out. And back then we had neural networks coming in via Torch framework in the language Lua. Right now, we are primarily a JVM based company. Our products have been in the market for 8 years. We are trying to add AI into those products. Right. So now a one-member team or a two-member team trying to learn Lua, trying to productionize it. It just didn't happen because we would be spending our time on operations than on doing actual AI. So what we did was we stuck to JVM, even though we had things like Apache Mahout back then, which were probably 2 versions slower, but they somehow solve the purpose. So the first learning I want to share is don't get carried away by the latest and greatest. Things always change. Look at the problem you're trying to solve, see how it will help your customer. So this was one. So now after some 3-4 months of research, we cracked all the math behind the AI ML algorithms, and then we decided, okay, we'll go apply this into our product. Like most B2B companies do not have the data advantage, unlike B2C. Now, people generally write there are terabytes of data out there. No, terabytes of data for a company that tracks every movement of your cursor, that tracks every click. Yes, they do have terabytes of data. But you are a B2B company, let's say you're selling a CRM and you just have like 50 entries from a small and medium enterprise, right? This is not terabytes of data. You probably have hundreds of rows of data. That is all you have. So you need to tune your things to, work right in a very low data setup. So that was one learning. And then the biggest learning was how the definition of product management has changed given how data is evolving. So product managers generally care about code reusability, extendability, modularity, and things like that. But today, the main function of a product manager is to make sure what all data points his products generate, and are these data points analytics ready, right? So this went back and forth. We get some data points and then they'll be in different formats. Date formats will be different. Somebody would log, let's say a housing project, somebody would log it in square meters, somebody would log it in square feet. And then that keeps changing. So we had to make sure we had to treat data like code. we had to treat data like we had a repository, we had versioning on them. We took branches of data and then we manipulated it and did milestones on it. We treated data like code, and that really helped. Now, our confusion, we chose something that is compatible with our JVM. Sorry, something compatible with our JVM. We chose. We found out product managers. We started logging all thing, and the module was ready. So we launched it one fine day, somewhere in 2014. We launched it. It was a 3-year stint. We were a 6-7 member team then. We launched it. We were continuously refreshing our mailbox for feedback, and absolutely nobody wrote to us. We were so excited. We did some tweets. We had a webinar on it. People came and attended, but there was absolutely no feedback, not positive, not negative. And finally, 15 days later, one guy writes an email saying, "Hey, how do I turn this off?" Right? So after all the efforts you did, somebody asked us, "How do I turn this off?" That is our first AI support ticket, right? And the team was very disappointed. Interestingly, the learning was the product had been in the market for 8 years, and people using the product were experts. It was a network monitoring suite, and the people using the products actually configured the network by hand, and they just used this tool as a digitization process where they have a digital record, and they built a lot of processes around this. So this is where we started adding explanations and make sure that AI is trustable. And after adding explanations, we found that AI models were they got a lot of traction. So the goal is, it's not about the tech, it's about what problem of your end user the system is going to solve. The AI system or the blockchain system you build is going to solve. So don't get carried away by the tech. Look at the problem you solve. I'll also tell you a good news. There was another subtle module we had launched. In fact, we didn't even consider it as a launch. This was a product where you can go design forms, and all of a sudden we used AI to recommend icons for the forms you designed. Right? There was one very happy customer who came to us and said, I created a form called California Leads, and you recommended the Golden Gate Bridge icon. I was really amazed by what you did. And you see the impact of AI. The first one was predicting a potential outage. That is a life or death problem. The second one is recommending an icon for a form you created. This is like 10x of this one. But the icon problem gathered more eyeballs, and people were really happy. They appreciated it. So, use these pieces of tech to solve problems that your users actually face, and don't put the tech first. Put your users' problem first would be my, engineering and product feedback for all of you.
I think that's a phenomenal stories. Yeah. The first feedback was, how do I turn this off? Phenomenal. And the other piece was that whole thing that we get very excited as product people, as techies. A lot of us get very excited by the tech and what we built and how great it is and what a tough problem we've solved. But maybe solving that icon problem was not very tough, but that's what the customer wanted. Ultimately, what matters is what the customer wants, and ensuring that we use tech to do that. And for startups, that's even more important. Reason is, you're very limited on resources. See, you need to choose like that 10. There's so many growth hacks. Ramki has talked about a few. Subrat talked about some. And if you read on the internet, you'll get hundreds of them, right? The issue is not that. The issue is about choice, about making a choice and then following through properly on it. And when making the choice, keep the customer in front is what Ram Prakash said. And I can't emphasize it. It's the most critical aspect of any decision you make as a startup.
And absolutely, yeah. And the most critical part is to manage those priority, because when you have so much of feedback, right? That customer is saying, I want to change that color, I want that. So much, chaos, right? So that's more critical to manage those priority. I can understand, Ram Prakash must have gone through it. Yeah.
So I think that's a great point also, that prioritization. So what you choose to do and how you prioritize it. That becomes very critical, especially on the product journey.
Yeah.
So achieving product market fit is not a one shot. You probably need to experiment with it, understand the user's real need better.
Absolutely. And Rahul, the best example is your Facebook. Now you look at Facebook, 2008 or 9, and now you look at Facebook. So every month they keep, changing the color, they keep changing the icons, because the users have also evolved, right? So when I was like, 22, 23, when I joined Facebook first, my behavior, my experience was different than what I am right now, right? Yeah, you have to keep doing it. You have to keep doing that experiment and measure those and impact and then scale it. Yeah.
Measuring impact is what you do, your business does, right? I mean, that is one of your key pieces. And why don't you talk a little bit about, see, to my mind, especially this entire COVID situation has made us all watch a lot more video. I mean, this entire conference is happening on video, right? I mean, we are all, what everybody's consuming is video. So the consumption of video has just phenomenally skyrocketed. Thanks to Jio, many of us have been able to also consume content everywhere. So I would love to get both Subrat's view on the video piece and then Anandji on, the whole telecom piece, which goes behind this entire thing. And, a little more flavor on Bharat and what the situation is.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Rahul. I'll just give you some kind of data points that will help you relate to where we stand. 3-4 years back, our average data consumption was close to about 1 GB. Today is 10 times that, thanks to Jio, obviously, right? And also the prices. The price of one GB of data in 2014 and 15 was close to about 250-300 rupees. Today it stands at less than 10 rupees, right? To understand the telecom landscape, and since this forum is for Haryana, and incidentally I have served in Haryana, I can say Haryana is best place for the startups. For reason being, it is in the vicinity of NCR, right? Resources are not a problem there. Plus, the cost of the space is one of the lowest, barring Gurgaon. I'm not talking about Gurgaon. You talk about Rohtak, you talk about Sonipat, right? Sonipat has come up very well. It's a few kilometers from Delhi. So it depends how because as a startup, when you start, one of the problem is the right resource. For a startup to find a resource in Bhopal and Lucknow will be far more difficult than to find a resource in Delhi NCR, including Gurgaon or Sonipat or Rohtak for that matter. Now, the second thing which we generally talk about is building a product. So when we build a digital product, and assuming that it is a B2C or G2C, whatever it is, right? Your audience are going to be connected digitally, right? And 98% of the communication is happening on wireless. Just to give you an insight, there are about 2 million towers servicing our telecom infrastructure. When I say 2 million, I'm talking all operators put together, BTSs, out of which only 60% of the BTSs are high-speed enabled. That means close to about 12 lakh. I'm talking including all the rollout that has happened for Jio, that's on VoLTE network, on 4G network, and the rest of the entire ecosystem put together is on 4G network. That means a sizable amount of geography is still to be covered for a high-speed network. If you look at the, 2 days back, I think Mr. Ambani, he was talking about 5G next year, and very rightly by Mittal Saab, he said no, it's at least 2-3 years away. Now you will actually, if you see the today's data consumption profile of minus Jio, because Jio has no 3G and 2G network, it's on 4G. Vodafone and Idea have close to 60% of their subscribers on 2G today, right? Airtel has 2G. Now, today, if I design a product, which we also do internally for our internal use and external use, we come up with something like 30-40 MB of application size. How can we expect a 40 MB or 30 MB application being downloaded by a rural customer who's on a thin network, right? Incidentally, if you see that, how we are placed in terms of quality of service, we rank 131st in data service. Our speed is close to about 11 Mbps that we get on 4G network. That is 131st on 140 or 100. In fact, Bangladesh and Pakistan, I think they're better than us, right, in terms of quality of speed, right? And the top ones like Korea and those, they are something around 80 Mbps they get on average. Now, if we're talking about 5G network, our ecosystem is not ready for that 5G network, and it's still far, far away. We have operators like BSNL who are yet to migrate on a 4G, and BSNL has close to about 10% of market share, and probably a very strong market presence in the rural community, right? They have not migrated to 5G, for 4G, forget about going to 5G, right? And coming back to the handset, I'm just talking about the ecosystem, talking about the handset. Today, in terms of population, the smartphone penetration is close to about 30-35% only, 36% to be precise. And if you compare to the telcos, I mean, within the telco community, that is the users they are using, that's close to about 45-50%, right? Our average data, I mean, internet penetration is close to about 50-55% for urban areas and about 45% for rural areas. Now, if you're talking about
Anand, what I wanted to ask you is, so what does this mean for startups? So what is the advice you want to give to startups from a growth hack perspective?
Yeah, so why I was sharing the data points is because generally when we are designing a product, or it could be for B2C or B2B, we should keep in mind the size of the product. You know, you might have a great product, but if it's not rightly sized, so it's not going to be rightly used. Second is what we have found through our own experience. Language plays a very important role. If you're looking at tier 1 places, English is fine, not a problem. The moment you talk about going back to tier 2 or tier 3 cities, right, an acceptability of usage depends largely on how the user is going to understand that. In fact, Subrat was talking about data and video. 70% of total data consumption is on video today. Whatever all the telcos they are putting together, 70% of the consumption is happening on the video side. Right. A person who's not even literate uses voice commands to search for certain preferred movie clips or movies and watches video. Obviously, thanks to the Ambani sir, whose data. I mean, we have 7 or 8 rupees a GB of data, right? So what actually means is when we plan our product, we're looking at a product. The focus is generally on the capability of the product, the features, this and that. We should also consider the size of the product. When we have the product ultimately right to move on, it should be rightly sized. You'll be surprised. The average size of an iOS application is close to about 40 MB, right? An average size of Android application is close to about 13 or 14 MB, right? So, and an average Indian downloads 80 applications on his mobile phone, and he uses close to about 30% of them. Right. So it depends. If you want your application to use, you have to be different. It has to be understood, accepted, downloadable. Right. These are all things that actually matter.
I'll just add to that. Actually, one of the startups I worked with, they did lots of new features and released the app. So the earlier app size was about 11 or 12 MB. And the new app size was something like 20 MB. Actually, they used lots of photos in it, right? To make it look pretty, the splash screen, all of that. And suddenly the app size went to 20 MB. And they found that lots of people uninstalled. So, because as he said, as Anand was saying, 80 apps on your phone memory size is limited. I mean, not everybody has expensive phones. So keep that in mind. India is a large and diverse country, right? And if you want to look at different market segments, like we talk about Bharat, then you need to consider what Anand shared with you in terms of speeds of the network, the size of the quality of the phones. All of those pieces are very important. So from your size of your phone, the app, to how much data transfer you need to make the app really work. That itself is a secondary, do you need all the time connection? Does it fail if the connectivity is patchy? Because, how many of us have had dropped calls over the last year? All of us, right? So, that's the reality of India. So keep that in mind when you're planning your product. Coming back to Subrat, you want to just quickly touch upon video and, Anand has already shared the fact that 70% of India's internet consumption, bandwidth consumption is all video. Any other thoughts you want to add to that?
Yeah, so if you go back to 2015, in India particularly. So we had only 12 OTT apps. So now in 2020, we have 55 apps, right? So ranging from all your mainstream like Netflix to Amazon Prime to all of these apps. And so now this itself talks about, talks the growth of Bharat story, right? And thanks to Jio, of course, you mentioned, thanks to Jio, because of Jio, now we are also able to consume content at a very cheaper cost. Back in 2011-12, you know how much data was costly, right? So one thing what we noticed in couple of years post Geo era and pre-Geo era. So what we have seen is the surge of traffic, internet traffic, and that itself the video traffic. So of course, right now Cisco also predicted that the 2022 by 2022 the internet entire traffic would be like 70%, which is actually happening now. And I'm sure, like you have seen that surge of traffic post Geo era in video consumption, not only in urban, also in rural parts of India. In post COVID era, we will also see that kind of surge. We have already seen during the lockdown period, like we were doing a report with one of our trusted agency partner. In that report, we found that there is a surge of 2.5x of a mobile application download. That I'm particularly talking about the short video mobile apps, which were like your ShareChat, TikTok of the world. And also, after the TikTok ban happened, again we saw that 3.5x growth of that entire mobile installed traffic across the vernacular users, right?
So,
Yeah.
Subrat, sorry to interrupt, but I've been pinged by the host. I think our session is about to, we have only about 4-5 minutes left. So I'll quickly just give my closing remarks. And if anybody would like to add any closing remarks, feel free to do that. And then we can try to address questions, open up the, if there is any questions to be asked and answered. So coming back, I think the key points which we've made today and which startups need to keep in mind is one, tech for the sake of tech doesn't make sense. Tech is ultimately for the purpose of solving a problem. So put the problem and the customer who has that problem first and look at tech. Whether it's AI, whether it's blockchain, doesn't matter what tech you use. It has to match what the customer needs. And as Anand and brought out, that the market in India is very diverse, and when you start thinking about their problems and how to solve their problems, you have to adapt to their environment. The environment is not the same. Our cities, which is where most of, if you look at historically what markets we've addressed through the internet, was largely the cities. But the market has become much larger, right? I mean, internet penetration today is gone across the country. And with COVID and all the situation, everybody is using much more, like e-commerce is growing. The industries which have completely changed, like take education or health, these have all become so digital. So in terms of opportunity, whenever change happens, there's lots of opportunity. So as startup entrepreneurs, I would suggest that this is a great time to start a new business. There's lots of opportunity, but focus on the customer. And that's the key piece. The quality of the solution, I mean, how high tech is it? Is it using the latest technology stack? Doesn't matter. I mean, Ram Prakash spoke about that they were using JVM, while even most AI, all the open source, all of that was not on Java. But he stuck to Java because that's what would work for their organization. So don't just choose the best tool. It has to be the best tool for you, right? And same, the customer always chooses the same way, right? He chooses what is best for him, not what is the best or latest, hottest, greatest product, right? So keep those things in mind, and that makes a. And in terms of growth hacks, I think Ramki and Subrat have both shared some examples from customer acquisition to how do you grow. But if you understand the customer, then you'll be able to create these different kinds of offerings, or in your product, create these tweaks or experiments, as Subrat put it very well. So try those experiments out, focus on those niche that you can identify for your product of customers, and then go after that. So those are my thoughts, but everyone, if anybody wants to add something, please feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, something I would like to add on competition. If you think that this is a niche market, there are very limited competitors. Tomorrow there might be competition. If there is a competition, and only the market would be explode. So nothing to worry about competition. This is advice for the startups. Only thing you focus on your key USP. What is your USP? What is your key differentiator? You be focused on that. You should offer a key differentiator to the customer. Then nothing to be worried on the competition. So this point I would like to add. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Ramki. Do we have any questions we need to? I'm not sure where do I see the questions.
Sir, actually, we've sort of run out of time, so I
Okay, all right.
think we could just wrap up the session.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much. Thank you, Subrat, Anand,
Thank you.
Ramki, Ramprakash, and of course, IMAI for giving us this opportunity. And I hope this was helpful to all the entrepreneurs here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you,
Thank
and
you.
team.
Bye.
Yeah,
Thanks,
bye-bye.
everyone.
Joining.